Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about your personal leadership journey?
Yeah, sure. So that's another really big question, Sarah. A really big one. Um, yeah, so my personal leadership journey, it's always evolving, and and I think I've got to really go back to the beginning and kind of tell you a little bit of my story, just because I think so many of my values were shaped through all the things I've been through, and things we learn. And as we learn, our aperture opens up wider, and we have a wider and a deeper understanding of this experience, this life, b, ourselves. I think that's so important. That gets lost a lot on leadership journeys. People are so excited to read the books and know all the right things, the right things to say, and how to lead units or lead business organizations. And I see a lot of leaders that don't spend the time going inward and developing themselves and really looking at what they're dealing with. I think I said earlier, we're really emotional beings, and I always say we're carrying a big sack of latent emotions over our shoulders, right? And we get into every conversation and we just kind of and throw them on the desk. And that comes into every conversation with our loved ones, every conversation with the people we serve. And if we don't deal with that big sack of emotions that we're carrying around, they're going to come out in inopportune times. So it's kind of been a big journey for me inward, as much as outward. So I guess I'll kind of start, in my childhood. Something that the first thing, I grew up in Brooklyn, New York City in the 80s and 90s, which is completely different from Brooklyn today. A complete different animal. But my mom and dad married very early, in their early 20s, and had me. And they both struggled with mental health issues, just like I did as a kid. And both did so much, both did everything they could at the time with what they had. And I remember, when I was 9 years old, I was getting ready to go take the citywide Regents reading test, where, it was a big deal. And I was getting ready to go outside and walk the 4 blocks to school. And I came out the front door, and my father, I remember my father saying to me, you're the man of the house now. And I didn't really understand what that meant. I just knew there was a lot of gravity to it. And he got carted off by the police officers in handcuffs, and got taken away to jail. And that was a really a pivotal moment in my life, where I kind of had to grow up really fast. And looking back in retrospect, I'm very thankful for all of this. I'm super grateful for all of this, because it's shaped the dude I am. And without all of this stuff, I don't want this to be like a pity party. This is kind of just part of my story. And what I realized after that, dad was gone, mom was trying her hardest. It didn't feel safe. I was very scared through childhood. And I found a lot of love, from some unlikely places. Luckily I had 60 families on my block on East 36th Street. All these houses stuck together. So a lot of kids, a lot of older kids, a lot of parents. So I had lots of opportunities to interact, and I was outside of the house. Like I said, the house was kind of a scary place for me growing up. And I spent a lot of time outside and running the streets and all over Brooklyn, all over the city, by the age of 11. And I found a lot of love, like a lot of people that just loved me, that told me I could. I remember my next door neighbor, Mr. Kelly, telling me a story that shaped me forever. I don't know how, maybe 10 or 11 years old, and he told me a story. And now looking back, the guy knew what was going on. The house was crazy. I had an uncle who had all kinds of addiction issues living on our couch. That was a disaster. Like, there's just a lot of crazy stuff going on in my house. And Mr. Kelly, this sweet old man next door, he said something to me to the effect of, life is like a quilt. And as you go through life, you can choose what color stitches you take from other people's quilts to put into yours. And I mean, what a beautiful piece of wisdom for this man who obviously knew what was going on and saw me, kind of reeling. And, and running, as I was kind of talking about earlier, I was just trying to achieve. I wanted to be the man of the house. I wanted to do well in school. I wanted to do good in sports. I wanted mom to be okay. And like, so I had Mr. Kelly, and I had all these coaches, oh my gosh, people driving me to baseball, basketball, football, track meets, all the sports, and people driving me all over the city. And then, I got a scholarship to high school, and thank goodness, right? I went to this amazing high school. I had this opportunity, and then I couldn't pay for books. So I had a teacher, people paid for my books, and then like coaches paid for me to go to Puerto Rico to play baseball, and like all these like just incredible things that, that just shaped me and showed me so much love. And I truly, like, from my heart, through all looking back in the reflection, I feel a total debt to my fellow man, woman, and child. Like, if I can kick a door open and hold it open for everyone to run through, like, that's what I'm trying to do.